This is the happiest day of my life.
What? How could you pick him? He's not even a chick. He's a guy.
Well, I suppose I can admit it now.
I'm a guy. So am I.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm a guy.
100% you asked me.
For a group that claims to be so oppressed, they sure seem to have a lot of influence and power in current society. Just look how so many companies, celebrities, and politicians bend over for this group of oppressed people. Transgenders love to go on and on about the struggles of being hunted down daily by evil transphobes around the world. Yet oddly enough, if you look at what's really going on, we can see them freely roaming outside in public, going to school, and having places to work, having the freedom to vote and buy property. They can even join the military if they want to. In modern society, due to the fact that we live in clown world, transgenders aren't treated nearly as bad by the mainstream as they claim to be. Where somehow people can't even identify what a woman is and believe there are more than two genders. So I find it strange when some transgenders screech about the nightmares they have to face on a daily basis. Truth be told, there are transgenders who are not extremists or activists, but are simply living their lives and willing to call out the scum in their community. One of them being Blair White. He is a great example of someone who tries to spread awareness about the truth that goes on with transgenders, despite constantly being attacked by the same group of people who claim to be oppressed and hunted down by transphobes, yet are on a crusade to silence a transgender. Whether you like it or not, no group of people are above criticism. There's going to be positives and negatives. Trying to silence those who try to point out the negatives does no one any favors. It makes your group look guilty and dishonest. Because pointing out negatives can result in fixing problems. Addressing a problem will lead to actual progress. And I don't think defending deranged weirdos who shoot up schools or try to groom children will make non-trans accept you in society.
Yeah, dude looks like a lady. Dude looks like a lady.
She's a man.
Now there are several problems worth addressing. You have transgenders who look to detransition due to regret. There's the high suicide rate, possibly due to regret. And you have acts of violence. There was one fairly recently where children and adults were murdered by someone who was trans, a man who allegedly transitioned to a woman, that person being Audrey Hale. Sadly, influencers such as the news media, celebrities from Hollywood and social media, and random people with a large following on Twitter have all driven a false narrative into people's heads. The narrative that anyone who simply does not agree with transgenders' ideologies are the enemy and that trans people must do whatever means necessary to stop anyone who opposes them. The idea of trying to brainwash a group of people who suffer from gender dysphoria to believe they are being hunted down from those who simply disagree or wish to protect traditional values is pure evil on the parts of those who tell these people to become extremists when things don't go their way. This type of thinking creates monsters. It's funny that transgenders expect everyone to accept them for who they are, when they couldn't accept themselves for who they really are. They will call someone hateful for simply not agreeing with their lifestyle, yet they are the ones with the hate. You have to really dislike yourself to the point of spending thousands of dollars to get surgeries, all to change your gender. None of this makes you a biological male or female, because biological males and females don't have to get sex change operations. And even after all those operations, they still don't look natural. Not only that, but the fake feminine voices and fake masculine voices also give it away. Not to mention the exaggerated wardrobes. They usually dress like a caricature of how they think men and women dress, and it comes across as unnatural. Personally, I have no issue if you are trans. If you live your life and not act like an unhinged extremist with lesser demands, then great. However, I have yet to hear anyone explain how they can feel like they're in the opposite sex's body while not being the opposite sex. It's like if I said I feel like I'm a dog trapped in a man's body when it would be impossible for me to know what that would feel like. It sounds silly because it is silly. Other issues are with those who identify as trans but have not fully transitioned or barely transitioned at all. It's similar to the group of people who believe there are more than two genders, or those who demand you prefer to them by their preferred pronouns. In many ways, this type of behavior is reminiscent of how little kids would play pretend, when they would make believe they are a dinosaur or a fire truck. But with this case, we have a bunch of adults playing pretend.
What's your problem, Holmes? Now we'll be stuck like this forever.
Chill out, dude. Well, hello from the neck down.
Sadly, society caters to all of this nonsense. We see it in certain locations, we see it find its way to entertainment. Oddly enough, there's people who defend this nonsense in hopes of being seen as a virtuous ally, but perhaps they don't want to get cancelled. I guess to some people, embracing a lie is worth more than the truth. Somehow people have allowed transgenders to invade sports, making a mockery of the sports they hijack. I don't know how feminists can be defending biological men pretending to be females, winning championships, medals, and trophies in women's sports. It's an insult to the women who paved the way for women in sports. Allowing transgenders in sports involving the opposite sex is not progress or empowering. Maybe the media should give the biological women a chance to say how they really feel and not punish them for saying the truth. And the truth is that transgenders have no business competing in sports involving the opposite sex. This is not a circus show, and allowing this foolishness takes away any legitimacy sports have. And the women who speak up publicly should not have to worry about trans weirdos and woke simps physically and verbally attacking them. All of the pandering from corporations won't make things better for transgenders. It will create a negative effect. It already has. And it's not hatred, but frustration from those of us who know it's pandering meant to push an agenda, and we're tired of seeing it shoved in everything. And there's even transgenders who are tired of it as well. They know why it's being done and know the negative effect it has. Instead of trying to silence anyone who says anything critical of transgenders, consider listening to what people have to say before you label them transphobic, and while it may not fit your narrative, look online and see the nut jobs who are leading the charge in the trans community. Take note of the batshit crazy rhetoric they spew, and when you're done doing all that, then you might have a better understanding as to why so many people are fed up with these people and have no remorse for the ones who go on mass shootings and don't walk out alive. And the only people we will shed a tear for are the real victims. And to the piece of shit parents out there who try to get their kids to become transgender, you deserve to have your children taken away. Actions like that is why our generation is so fucked up, because we have grown adults feeding the younger generation a bunch of bullshit that will only confuse and weaken them. Entertainment and other forms of escapism is now filled with propaganda aimed for easily manipulated weak people. And when the parents should have enough sense to protect their children from the propaganda, they do the opposite and help shape this fucked up society. So when you ask why we talk about these kind of topics, this is why. We remember what was normal and what was a lie. Back when people could tell you what a biological female was. When trans flags weren't randomly placed in superhero movies. And when we didn't have to hear sick fucks talk about saving trans kids. We are aware of what's really going on, and just because you embrace it and want to play along, that does not mean we all have to. Because we won't.
Space Ghost, it has come to my attention that I am pregnant.